And good morning. We are live on YouTube, but we're going to bring in our Facebook groups. We've got Atlanta Falcons fans on All Falcons on Facebook, and we've got Scott Kennedy Sports on Facebook. We're going to bring those in real quick. So we've got everybody the chance to come in and talk a little Forging the Falcons. So welcome in, everybody. This is Forging the Falcons on your regularly scheduled live stream at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. We also go Mondays and sometimes Fridays, but definitely Mondays and Wednesdays. I am Scott Kennedy, your host. I'm in Atlanta. This is my co-host, Nick Kendall. He's in Seattle, so we've got you covered coast to coast for your football Wednesday mornings. Nick, how are you doing this morning, my friend?
I am doing pretty well. Getting excited for this upcoming week of football. Luckily, the last week of football, like I mentioned on Monday, was so painful that at that time I was a little bit, bitter and just like, got to do this again. But now it's enough in the rearview mirror that I'm getting excited again. Maybe one of my teams will score a touchdown this week. I mean, Iowa can't lose because they don't play. They only have Ohio State the week after that at Ohio State. So how bad can it get? But excited for football again.
Yeah, baby steps. I told you the college football one kind of got away from me a long time ago, especially when I turned it into work. I was sitting there in 2003 watching a number 3 ranked Auburn Tigers need 3 games to score a freaking touchdown with 4 first-round picks on the offense. And I was like, you know what? I'm not happy when they win because you expect them to win. It's not like, back then, it's 1 or 2 where you weren't playing for a championship. So you had to be perfect. It's like, and then some. I was like, and when they lose, I'm miserable. I need a new hobby. So, I really stopped watching college football in that way as a fan almost 20 years ago. Now, I turned it into work and enjoyed the process. And, the old phrase, you root for the names on the back of the jerseys more than you do on the front of them is true. So I poured my fandom into international football. So that's where my fandom goes. And the Atlanta Braves. I want to say good morning to some folks coming in. Aiden Munden coming in. Says, good morning, everyone. No better way to start my birthday than talking some Falcons. Well, happy birthday, Aiden. Happy birthday. Hope the weather is nice up there for you. I believe in Temple in New Jersey or Philly. That's Philly. I think Temple's up in Philly. So either way, you got a chance mid-October that the weather swing could be very drastic for you. Jeremy Sean coming in said, good morning. I got the sickness, the fall cold that I got that Scott had and was down a couple days. Want to stop in and support alike. Yeah. Growing up in the South, I could set my calendar by when I'd get a head cold that would turn into chest cold. When I moved to California, it went away because the weather doesn't change. I didn't get that anymore. But it got me with between the travel and being tired and old and an early fall here in the South. It's knocked out my family pretty good too. Steve Kennedy coming in, saying hi, guys. Good morning, Mr. Kennedy. Good morning. Good morning. Ronell Smith feels like a newer name. Don't recognize Ronell Smith coming in. So good morning, Ronell. Appreciate you coming in and look forward to your contribution. Joe Cannon is definitely not a new name. So morning, fellas. What's y'all's opinion on this roughing the Brady rule? We hit this on Monday. I'm happy to go through it again, but it's disgraceful. I put that in the title. It was disgraceful. The phrase coming in that was, overcorrection Sunday. And it was, there's no way, there's been more articulate people than me describe it, but there's no bucket that fits into where it's roughing the passer. None. Not a one. Even the one where Tua got hurt isn't roughing the passer. I mean, it's you're allowed to grab them by the waist and pull them down. You're not allowed to sling them down on the ground, from a standing position, or you're not allowed to jump on them and land on them. You're not allowed to hit them low. You're not allowed to hit them high. But by God, I'm allowed to grab them by the waist and pull them down. So it was a disgraceful call. And I see some of the conversation and some of the Bucks fans who feel cheated out of a win because now everybody's talking about that play. And I say some because most rational Tampa Bay fans would say that there's no way that's a penalty. But it doesn't necessarily mean the Falcons are going to go down and score. But this is the Atlanta Falcons. We get it. Falcons fans are acting like they would have just gone down and scored a touchdown. No, we're not. We're Falcons fans. We know better than that. but we don't want to be cheated out of the opportunity. And it was disgraceful. The boys earned that. The men earned that chance, and it was taken away from them by a shit call. That's what I think.
Yeah, I know it's unfortunate, and I guess it's easy for me to say, being not connected to this. If it was my, again, Iowa Hawkeyes that this happened to, there was a game, I guess, 2 weeks ago against Michigan. There was 3 penalties that were just god awful. Like, there was a textbook block, and they called clipping, just horrible. I mean, just stuff like that. And it's like, man, we maybe would have had a chance. There was a one point where we were one possession down where we could have come back, but we were outclassed. We were the worst team. We didn't deserve to win. So blaming the refs isn't really what's going to go. But still, it's the NFL. They should be able to get it right. There's got to be some solutions, and especially then capping it with that Chris Jones.
Yeah, and Chris Jones said it. He goes, "If you're going to call it this tight, you've got to be able to review it."
Yep.
Because 30 seconds on a review. I've said that a zillion times. 30 seconds on a replay. It's all it should take. You should be able to look at that in 5 seconds and say, "That's not roughing." They showed one. There was a phantom one. You could tell the back judge called it. There was one on Tom Brady where let's say, if you're over here and the hand comes down in like to the side, so the back judge is behind him, the hand comes down and hits him on the shoulder pad, but it comes down high and you can't see it, turns around behind him. I'm almost willing to give that more of a benefit of the doubt. That looks like he chops down and may have hit him in the face mask. You're not allowed to touch him in the head at all. It doesn't matter the force. I can get that. We'll review it. Let's give that. That's a 15-yard penalty. Those are big ones. Let's spend 5 seconds. I don't need you to go over to the booth and look in there and walk over and stop everything. Just look at it and say, no, he didn't touch his head. Okay, done. So I'm with Chris Jones on that one, but. And again, it's not even. I don't care whose team it is. I don't want to win like that either, Nick. It's unfair. It's wrong. It's against competition. It's against why we love sports. I don't want to win that way any more than I want to lose that way. It has nothing to do with who it happened to. For me, it's just crap. It ruins the game.
If it happened a little bit on the other end to like Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, I don't think I would shed a tear that much. But I hear you. I don't disagree. But sometimes
you look at the old. I mean, the things that they used to do to Cam Newton because he was a big, strong, mobile guy were very, very different to what you're letting a geriatric, old, immobile quarterback take in the pocket right now. And it's just, again, don't want to spend too much time on that. But Joe, you got me. You got me on that one. FC Donnelly coming in on YouTube saying, "Morning, fellas." Good morning, FC Donnelly. And Big Al coming in says, "Good morning, guys. Have you heard anything about a new rule about hitting quarterbacks? May have been a joke post." No, I haven't heard anything coming in. They just need to enforce the rules they have. Those aren't roughing penalties. That they are called roughing. It's not one of those where it's like, well, I don't like the rule, but that's the rule. No, that's not the rule. That's not the rule. Those are bad calls. Those are bad calls. So give them a method. I'm not watching. Everybody's got their own little, normal. In baseball, you'll see the umpires gather together because they're all watching kind of one ball. It's not like I need to watch the offensive line for holding. I need to watch the defensive backs for holding. I need to watch all of these other things because there's so many different penalties that can happen in football. They'll get together in baseball and get it right. Say, what'd you see? What'd you see? What'd you see? Said, no, he definitely went or it fouled off his foot. Okay, thanks for the help. He's safe. Whatever. They'll try and get that together, and then they'll go to replay if they need to. You can't really do that in the NFL because everybody's really has to watch their own little areas, but you've got a zillion camera angles and you've got replay. Spend 2 seconds on it, buzz them down and say, no, I didn't hit him in the head, or no, this was a judgment call. Watch it again. You might want to, I'm not going to overrule you on this, but watch it again. There's no way that's roughing. No way.
I guess the question is, where's the line from a true call standpoint? Like, are you going to review every pass interference? Do you get 1.5 where a team can challenge a call? I mean, there has to probably be some sort of strict structure in what is reviewable, because I mean, God, with the way the Broncos are committing penalties right now, if you reviewed every one, especially a coach that's really good in a guy's ear, or some staffs would be more willing to review than others. There's got to be some sort of guideline. Otherwise, you're taking
Every
6.
play in college is reviewable.
Yeah.
You know, they stop it too often and they take too long. That's the problem. They don't
Yeah.
need to re-ref the game. But again, by the time you get done complaining, that's not, and line back up. A replay official can watch a replay. And if
Yeah.
it's clear and obvious, he can stop it. It shouldn't take me any longer than that.
And we haven't even
And
talked about
I honestly don't expect this to continue to be a problem. I really don't. I think this was an overcorrection based on seeing Tua on the ground looking like he was having a seizure.
Yeah.
Just completely locking up, and it scared people. And this was an overreaction. But the calls were game changing. For the Falcons at least, and for Chris Jones, the Chiefs won that game, but it's not football.
Yeah.
It's not even close to football. These guys they're protected enough back there that you can't get a roughing penalty for tackling them by the waist. It's ridiculous.
And last thing I'll say before we move on to this, and I made this point maybe Monday, but I think it's the biggest one here. This, at some point, if the calls continue to be this egregious, I guess we'll go with, there's going to be millions of dollars at stake here with the sports gambling that is just becoming huge across the United States. And they're going to have to answer to that. I mean, the NFL is probably, their sponsorships, you see DraftKings on every other commercial or Caesars or something in their little online sportsbook kind of things. These penalties are going to cause a line to flip, and there's going to be some irritation. So,
and it's going to start to feel rigged.
Yeah.
That's where it comes, where you start talking about the integrity of the game.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, but people win and lose money all the time. Okay, yeah, but when the refs are starting to make decisions that are doing this, then it starts feeling rigged. And that's really, really bad for the industry. It's really bad for the referees too. Seeing some pretty awful things happen to officials around the world with stuff like this. But anyway, Ryann says, yeah, the refs need to go back to class. Again, you don't need a new rule. You just need to call it right. Those weren't fouls. Dominic coming in. Dominic Jaramillo coming in said, good morning, Scott Nicholas and Dog Nation. So good morning. Good morning, Dom. Appreciate you being here. And Terry's coming in. He's fired up. He's got the red and the black, the birds, and the exclamation points. And talking about having some momentum. What's a little bit of momentum? I wish they would have done it against a team that had no red in their uniforms. But the Falcons are bringing out the reds this weekend, and they look good. They look good. Sometimes I like to say these are a little bit of an age check. I'm over 40. I think they look fantastic. The younger people might not like them as much, but I think they look fantastic. As Terry said, it was the same thing. You're just robbed of the opportunity. That's what you play for. You play for the chance, and the chance was taken away from you by someone else that wasn't involved in the play, that involved themselves in the play. It's like, okay, Tom Brady, converts a 3rd and long and they kneel it down. Okay, well, that chance technically say take it away from you, but it's by a competitor. That's sports. That happens. I get it. Guy made a play. Anyway, we get it. It was wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Big time disappointing, but what can you do? So moving on, probably spend 15 minutes talking about this. Big Al coming in. How you doing, Big Al? Good to see you. Says, I also feel like it may hinder the defense because if Grady gets just get back another quarterback, how will he react worrying about getting a penalty again? I don't think he's going to react one bit. He's not going to think about it until probably after the fact, after he makes the play and looks around to see if there's a stupid flag there. But for his play, I don't think it's going to change anything.
Big Al, the first time he gets to Tom Brady, he might get his money's worth, especially after everybody's been talking about Tom Brady kicking out at his nutsack a couple of times after sacking him. You know what, brother? If I'm going to get 15, I'm going to earn it. I'm going to earn it. You want to worry about getting slung down by the hips? Wait until you get 300 pounds of compact bowling ball land on your chest. Give me 15 for that, you sons of so's. Yeah. So, not that I'm fair. Again, it's just unfair. I don't like. Competition should be fair, and it was unfair. Liquor with Lenore. Good morning, peeps. Good morning. We're gonna go coffee with the Falcons fans here, and some Broncos fans, and whoever else wants to come in, and we're gonna go with coffee. But you do you. We do international shows. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So, and Kevin coming in, he says, Scott, I appreciate you saying on Monday that you will remember Deion Jones fondly. I will too, and have no problem wishing him well in Cleveland. Absolutely. Deion Jones was a hell of a player. Very early on, he was a difference maker on defense. And it's not his fault. I've said this about Matt Ryan's contract. I'll say this about Julio Jones' contract. Get what you can get while you can. It's Thomas Dimitrov's fault for overpaying a linebacker, for one, and two, where the medicals coming in, because he was declining. That's on Dimitrov. I don't blame a player for getting paid. That's their goal. That's what they're going after. Deion Jones was a hell of a player for the Atlanta Falcons, no doubt about it.
Yeah, hell of a player, no doubt. Good time. We said it. God, I feel like I said this when we were first starting the show on here. How the game is still changing now. If you can still play linebacker, that's fine. If guys can play all shapes and sizes, Grady Jarrett, Deion Jones, they can show that. But the way the game is trending right now, you want a little bit bigger bodies with some wingspan at the linebacker spot, because you want to be able to play less guys in the box. It's not the, one gapping type of field there where you got three linebackers in a 4-3, or especially in a 4-3 where you have sometimes those smaller sideline to sideline guys. It's better than a linebacker who can cover? A safety or a cornerback who can cover. So if you can get some linebackers out there that they're playing hook zones or covering running backs in the flat with the length and ability to come down where you can play less of them, that's a little bit more valuable, in my opinion, in today's game. And we saw a microcosm of that this past draft class, where Quay Walker, first-round linebacker, Nakobe Dean, third-round linebacker. Now, injuries are part of that, but I really do think that the type of bodies that they're looking for there have gone away from even further from Deion Jones.
The run stopping isn't necessarily as important anymore because it's a passing league.
But if you can stop run with less personnel, there is a lot of value to that, because then if you can stop the run with a pass personnel, that's money. That's why Jordan Davis is so valuable.
But especially in this type of in this formation, if you're in a base 3-4, you have to have you're down a linebacker.
Yeah.
Your 3-4 isn't really a 3-4 linebacker. It's a 5-2. You've got your two edge guys are stand-up defensive ends. They're not true outside linebackers, Will and Sam's, like you would be in a 4-3, because that's where Deion Jones is really good. On the outside, and let him cover. He's great in coverage. He's one pick six away from setting the all-time record for a linebacker, I believe, for tying. He was really good in coverage, and then he was really good out in space and speed. I didn't want him in the middle because he's undersized. To Nick's point, that's where he gets caught up in the wash, and he's not holding up as well against guards coming and pulling after him. But yeah, Deion Jones was a great player for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm glad his contract is gone. Whether he was playing well or not, you can't have that contract. He's $20+ million for an inside linebacker and a 3-4. How much a difference is there between him and Rashaan Evans at $1 million, $1.5 million right now? There's just not that big a difference for $20-something million. So yeah, I'll be glad to have him off the books, Kevin, but I do wish him well in Cleveland. And Samuel White, he's coming in talking about the spread. How we were talking about Vegas. This is kind of a misnomer. It says, based on how things changed, it does change, but Vegas isn't betting. Vegas didn't get rich by gambling. Vegas doesn't gamble at all. They want equal amounts of bets on either way. So no matter how the game goes, they win. That's why they adjust the line. If they're starting to be too much money on one side of it, they adjust it down so they can balance it out and get more money. It's ironic, but the last thing Vegas wants to do is gamble. They don't want to gamble. They want a sure thing. And a sure thing is half the money on one side and half the money on the other side. So one of these people are getting screwed. The people that are taking the bets are always in the making the money. I always remember Trading Places, one of my favorite lines, where they're explaining to Billy Ray Valentine. He says, so our clients, we take and make sales, trading commodities for our clients. Mortimer says, or whoever it was, one of the other Dukes, he says, now tell them the good part. He says, no matter whether our clients make money or lose money, we get paid the commission. And Billy Ray looks at him, he says, it sounds to me like you're a couple of bookies. And he goes, I told you he'd understand. So exactly, they don't care. Vegas doesn't want to gamble. They don't want to gamble. But if people start getting the sense that it's rigged, people are taking their money out. They're not betting on it anymore, and that's when Vegas loses. Not who they bet on, but when they bet or don't bet.
Yeah, 100%. We got Big Al coming in too. Like to see that kick in Grady too. And it all says, okay, what do we need to do to beat the Niners? We'll get into that. TD Pease likes 3 safeties. I think Pease likes coverage guys out there when he can find them because the cornerback depth is somewhat lacking there. Quality cornerback depth. And we also got Blair Carter saying, Scott Nick, what's up? So proud of this team. Hashtag rise up. Yeah, you should be proud of this team. 2 games where it would have been easy to lay down and die. And talking about week 2 at the Rams and last week at Tampa Bay, things off the rails a little bit early, inept offense, and defense doesn't, give up. The offense keeps clawing back. I know that there was the soundbite out there about Devin White saying, yeah, you get a little bit bored when you're up by that much and the other team can get in there. Hopefully that's plastered all over the locker room the next time the Falcons play the Buccaneers. But this team is fighting. They definitely have a talent disparity. Luckily, I think I can say this given my perspective over on the Broncos. This Falcons team has been relatively healthy. I know you had Kyle Pitts and Cordell Patterson out, but it's not like, half of your starters are on IR. This is a team that's fighting and definitely going in the right direction. I wish Arthur Smith would be a little less chippy with the media sometimes because
I think he's changed. I think he after that last one, after the first game, I think there was I put in the title "Petulant Child Act" as wearing thin.
Mm-hmm.
One of the USA Today guys or Falcoholic guys said, he hasn't earned the right to treat reporters like this.
Yeah.
It's backed off. He came out and basically apologized the next day.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to take that out on people in this room because again, if you want to go after Stephen A. Smith or Colin Cowherd, the shock jocks, okay, but when that's basically the beat writers they're an extension of your team to a certain extent. They rarely will get overly critical, the people that are in that room of what you're doing because they need the access.
Yep.
They need to be able to talk to you and ask you questions and get information. And you don't do that if I'm constantly negative.
Yep. 100%. Nathan Floyd also saying, have Mr. Blank ready with the checkbook and blitz the hell out of Jimmy G. Not sure about the checkbook. Maybe talking about this offseason, but Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, moving on to the 49ers. This is going to be an interesting matchup because I think the 49ers, let me pull it up right here. According to Football Outsiders DVOA, the 49ers have the number 1 defense in football so far this season. Just coming off of Tampa Bay, who is sitting there at the number 3 spot. And this is a really good 49ers defense. Nick Bosa can get after it, but it's really the coverage units back there, how well they pass off their zone coverages. D'Amico Ryan, the defensive coordinator there, should be probably one of the top candidates this upcoming offseason for a head coaching spot. I know everybody wants the young offensive coordinator. Some would say that his race maybe also keeping him a year back, but he's definitely 100% earned a shot here. This is a defense that's playing as well as anybody. And Falcons are going to need Cordell Patterson's out, but they're going to need Kyle Pitts to step up in this offense to not dig an early hole to give them a chance.
Yeah, it should be. It could be a game very similar to when the Broncos played the 49ers. Special teams and defense, lots of 3 and outs. You're going to need some help. It just seems to me on this one, taking a preview of this one, the point spread was 11. Atlanta's a home 11-point underdog. Every game they've played so far has been 1 score and has come down to the final possession. I mean, an 11-point spread as a home for the home team seems like a lot. That seems like a lot to me based on what we've seen so far. Keeping Jimmy G under pressure, making him have some questionable decisions, which he is wont to do, is definitely a good way, Big Al and Nathan, to try and win this game. Charlie has a good question here because I believe things are cyclical. So with so many teams dropping 7 or 8 into coverage lately, will running backs come into prominence? I think so, but again, let's think about baseball, just a little bit. With as fast and talented as the defenses are, even though they're the rules are against them, the rules favor the offense. Every rule change that's been made has been to in the last 40 years has been to increase offense. You swing for the fences in baseball because they say it's hard to string together 3 hits against these pitchers as you're coming in and you're bringing in guys that are throwing 95 plus and you're seeing 5 or 6 pitchers and matchups this, matchups that you're better off just swinging for the fences. Nick, could football be a little bit like that, where it seems like as you're starting to see, 7, 8 guys drop into coverage, it makes sense just to take my 5 and 6 yards at a time. But can I do that all the way down the field without having a mistake where I find myself in 2nd and 15 after a procedure call or a hold or something like that, where teams don't trust themselves to single their way down the field? So they're swinging big, they're striking out, and they're hitting home runs. They're getting chunk plays, but there's more 3 and outs than ever. I just thought of that all of a sudden, but it seems to me like there could be a parallel between the all or nothing baseball swing versus the I'm not willing to run the ball down the field as a basis of my offense, maybe to kill a game, to control the clock at the end, but not as my main strategy.
Yeah, it really comes down to, and that's actually a really good analogy. It comes down to explosives and the ability to get explosives. You are way more likely to hit an explosive play through the pass than the run, and also the pass play. It's less dependent on every single person doing their job. With the offensive line, you need the entire offensive line to block and win their matchup. If one guy fails for the run game, more so even than the pass game, because the quarterback can make a play more so in the pass game than you typically see in the run game when there is a broken or somebody loses their assignment up the front. So it's definitely likely. As far as this one goes, will you see running backs come more into prominence? I'm honestly more interested in if you see more guys dropping into coverage, giving the defense more assignments. And what do I mean by that? It's the option of the quarterback running here. The teams that seem to have the running offenses right now that are working quite well aren't just, the old school drop back quarterback handing it off to the running back. It's the ones where you have the read options or a quarterback who is equally dangerous or more so dangerous, if you're talking about the case of the Ravens, where the backside defender cannot crash. They have to keep the guys in the box. They have to play cover 3 or cover 1 with more guys closer to the line of scrimmage, because you have to account for that +1 in the quarterback as a runner. Now, long term, is that a sustainable option? That's a totally different debate. I mean, I'm of the opinion that we should be enjoying Josh Allen right now because they are using him like Cam Newton, and we saw how quickly Cam Newton degraded, unfortunately. But I think the running game still has value. If you can continue to will your way down the field, it wears on them, and then you can kind of, we talk about it as a boxing analogy, softening them, gut punch, then shot to the kisser. But I think as far as the numbers go, the cover 6, the split field safeties, the box counts, running backs still matter in that way, not long term, but a year by year basis, yes. But I think the teams that are really countering this and giving it a hard time are the ones that have quarterbacks who are rushing options as well, just because the math doesn't add up.
The Falcons got started after being shut down pretty well. Their offense really opened up on a quarterback keeper. It was when the play Mariota, run pass. It was a run option, and he keeps it and takes off left tackle, 20 yards. Now we're rolling. You want to be able to try and find that balance, though, because right now the passing game, and I'm not putting this all on Mariota, because I've seen he's got Drake London, Olamide Zaccheaus, who's a good number 4, and then some cast-offs. The wide receiver and tight end room isn't where you need it to be just yet. That will get better. But the Falcons are finding success when they decide to screw with it. We're going to run it down your damn throats. And but all it takes when you're watching that, a fumbled snap, a 1st and 15, a hold, and all of a sudden you're really in trouble. When
stuff
you
like
when you cannot throw the ball.
Yeah. So, like I'm just watching the Broncos do this, watching the Hawkeyes do this. It doesn't even have to be a damn penalty or anything like that. It could be a run where you get 1 yard, and now it's 2nd and 9. Oh well, we might as well get punter, get ready. It's 2nd and 9. So that's it's definitely right, and it's hitting singles down the field. It's another reason that you see the Vic Fangio defense take hold across the league. What is the Vic Fangio defense all about? No big plays. They have to earn it. We think that they're going to blink first. They're not going to be able to execute 12-play drives over and over again, and we're really going to bow our backs in the red zone area. And if they get down there, they'll get 3. It's like, I think, I don't know which coach it was, but said, what's the most overrated stat in football? Offensive yards. I mean, it's matters because it kind of shows how the offense is performing to an extent, but you can have a big lead and then the offense can be giving up yards getting yards like crazy. Or if you're not converting in the red zone, that doesn't matter. So give up all the yards, just don't give up them in one play and make them earn it.
I can go 10-40 and pick up 50 yards of possession and not score any points. Or turnovers, obviously. That's the big one. Or the penalties, because I could go from 20-20 and pick up 60 yards. I could have 80 yards in a drive because I had 2 penalties go against me too. Albert Knopper's coming in, says good morning. Good morning, Albert. So Michael Ranquillo also come in. He says good morning, Scott and Nick on Forging the Falcons. And AE said good morning, fellas. Now, Nick, real quick, now that we're 30 minutes in, wanted to talk about our fan poll that came in. USA Today did one of these. I'm going to drop the link in the chat real quick for everybody. We did this and we had some people come in and have some questions and they weighed in as well. But we did this a couple weeks ago, grading the Falcons after the first quarter of the season. But I was interested in the fan poll. I'm like, well, we can go through this again real quick and see what they came up with. So let me share the screen. And we won't spend a ton of time on this because this is like we did it just the other day, I think 2 weeks ago. So we'll go through grades. I want you to kind of take your guess and see where it is, and we'll go through them. So they go through all the coaches and then the units, and we won't spend a ton of time on this, but I want to go through them. What grade would you do you think that the fans have given Arthur Smith so far?
I'd probably say a B.
That's right. So you look here and you see B was 46% and A was 38%. A C was 11 with just a D getting 3.6. So Atlanta Falcons fans have been pretty happy with the job that he has been doing. Offensive coordinator Dave Ragone. I see him involved on the sidelines. I really do. He's not just a clipboard holder. He is more involved than you might think for a guy whose head coach is calling all the plays and is the offensive coordinator.
I mean, it's hard to say from where we sit because Arthur Smith is the schemer, the puppet master of the offense. But I really love what the Falcons are doing scheme-wise right now. And so I guess without knowing the exact role, I might even say an A for him, just given how much responsibility he might have. A B makes sense, but I mean, the offense is great. And the reason that Arthur Smith kind of gets a step back for me is because of the overarching team. I think the defense is not totally his fault too, because it's about the horses, especially on defense. But I might even give him an A, but a B is fine.
Falcons fans on about 600 votes, 800 votes on this one gave 50%, 57% gave him a B, and a C is 27%. And the C, I think, is something like, well, what is he doing? And I understand that one. I understand that one too as well. And Jason coming in and saying the team looks incredible considering what they were working with. I agree. I think they look like they can play with and beat anybody right now. Doesn't mean they will. The depth and the injuries take their toll. They're 2-3 for a reason and not 4-1. But they're doing well. I think they're playing really, really well. Moving back down, we go to Dean Peace.
I'd give Dean Peace a B. Again, it's not totally his issue that the pass rush and some of the run fits and whatnot, and injuries at linebacker, the safety. I mean, this is a team that's really lacking some alphas on the defense right now, and I do really like the development of Taquan Graham. Grady Jarrett's playing better this season than last year, in my opinion. AJ Terrell maybe small step back, but that's not crazy. Cornerbacks have crazy high volatility year to year. But I think overall they're doing about as good as you possibly could hope given the pieces they're dealing with.
Yeah, they have their moments. They let Tom Brady, and that's if there's one quarterback in the world you can't let pick you apart, is like, we're going to make you work your way down the field. By God, Tom Brady will work his way down the field. He'll take 5 yards at a time and just needle you to death. But then they shut him down, and whether it was complacency on the Buccaneers part, that's human nature. That happens. That wasn't I don't remember who was it, Devin White, who had the quote saying, he basically said we got complacent. We were imposing our will and we got complacent. That happens. What you love for watching from the Falcons is they didn't quit. They didn't give up, because a lot of times teams can roll over too. They can say, okay, we're out of this. Let's protect ourselves and wait till next week. So again, the defense stood up and played really, really well in the second half, and I thought they've been good. All things considered. Special teams coordinator Marquise Williams, B and A, almost 86%, half almost split equally. So the coaching staff, the Falcons fans have been really happy with. Quarterback might be a little bit more with Marcus Mariota, might be a little bit harsher here. What do you think?
It depends. Are we grading against expectation, or are we grading against the league norms?
I think it's a combination of both, honestly. You can't take one without the other as a fan when you're watching this. It's like, okay, where is he compared to the rest? And then you can't take your own expectations out of it. It's a bias that is impossible to ignore.
Yeah. Well, I would probably give him a B so far this season, maybe a B minus if we were being real, but I could see a C. So wow, a D, a lot of Ds out
Yeah,
here.
he coming in. I think people are. This is one of the worst grades. He got 52%, gave a C. I think that's what I voted. I give him a C. He's been okay.
Yeah.
If a C is average, and then a D was 25%. So 75%, 76% said C or D, and only a B was 18%. So I'd be like C plus. I think he's been. Again, but it's hard to say expectations. But you look at the last 2 weeks, his passing's been an F the last 2 weeks, which is still basically how you're going to get graded for the most part as a quarterback. But he's moved the ball. He had 60 yards rushing. Let's throw that onto your passing yardage, and it doesn't look quite as bad. Running backs: Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley.
I give them a B.
I went A on this one overall. I mean, you think that Cordero Patterson was 4th in the league in rushing. The other guys have come in and done really well. Caleb Huntley looks great. I love the way he runs all knees and elbows. I mean, what do you hit on that guy? It's like a ball of butcher knives, rolling ball of butcher knives coming at you. You go after him and you're going to get a knee in the chin. I really like the way he runs. But again, most of this is based on Cordero Patterson. For me, is an A, and he played in the first 4 games. But it's 92% was B or A, with almost 60% giving an A. Tight ends.
I'm gonna give them a B. I think there's a lot going on with Kyle Pitts as far as the scheme wise of using him as a decoy to draw coverage, and teams are trying to take him away while making Drake London prove it. Also, I think we always think of tight ends, what are they doing for the fantasy side of things, the catches, the whatever, but these guys are being in there and being used as blockers a lot and doing a pretty damn good job in those max protect, only 2 routes out there situations. So I'm going to give them a B.
I think I went with C on this one because it's also part of, again, it's expectations.
Yeah.
You're expecting more from Kyle Pitts, but you're not getting anything really out of anybody else.
Yeah.
Some decent blocking in there. Now, if I included the fullbacks in here, there's part of the other running backs too. Keith Smith's been freaking phenomenal. We didn't talk about enough about him on Monday at fullback. It just the Bob Christian days. I mean, just moving guys. If he gets a clean shot of the linebacker, it is a big play in the running game. I love what Keith Smith has been doing. But tight ends B and C split almost evenly there. Wide receivers.
I probably give him a C. It's close to a B or C, but I probably give him a C. Drake London's been great.
For me, Drake London's been an A. But after that, you're talking C's across the board for the most part at best. So B and A. So really, really pleased. And I think, again, part of this is expectations. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about the originally had the lowest, depending on PFF or ESPN or whoever's doing these rankings, the worst wide receiver room in the NFL at 32. Well, if that's my starting point, then this team is well overachieved. But on the whole, they lack explosiveness as a unit. I think Drake London has been really, really good. Strong hands, good separation, runs after the catch. Everything you could ask for from a rookie out of him so far as a rookie. Certainly looks the part. But it was 60% B, 19% A, and 19% C on this fan poll. Offensive line.
I mean, against expectations, you give him an A, but against league norms, probably give him a B. I mean, A for the offensive line is like, man, I think there's been enough issues with the specifically the center just playing meh football that probably give him a B, but I would not be surprised at all if they earned an A, given what a revelation last year to this year has been.
And I think, like I said, it's almost impossible to take your bias out of it when you're doing these based on expectations. So, compared to, I'm remembering last year, and compared to my expectations coming in, it's an A plus. So I probably gave them an A because I think they've been a strength of this. I think they've been the strength of this team on offense so far this year. So I think I probably went A. But it was 45% B, 38.9% A on that. So again, very happy with that group. Defensive line?
Is this including the edge rushers?
No, it is not.
I mean, God, honestly, I might give him an A. I've been impressed with Graham, and Grady Jarrett looks great. And this picture also makes me want to bump their grade up a tad. So it's, and we're not giving
I know.
like I'd give the offensive line a B plus if I could have. I'd give the defensive line maybe an A minus. But I've been really impressed with Grady Jarrett this season, specifically in the pass downs. I think they've done a good job. Graham has really stepped up. Could they use another superstar player there that could eat some blocks and play, 3 downs? Sure. What team couldn't? But I've been impressed with this one. And I think even against expectations, the offensive line, been good. But the defensive line, I mean, let's say you have just a league average player there or a below average player where Graham is playing. So yeah, BC, I've been impressed.
I think I went B on this, but
Yeah.
I would definitely B plus before I would go B minus on the C.
Yeah.
Grady Jarrett's playing at a Pro Bowl level. Taquan Graham is playing close to it, where he is a plus player in this league. Abdullah Anderson seems like he has worked his way into the rotation now. Finally, I mean, I saw him in the preseason. Was like, okay, Falcons need that guy on the field. I don't know why it took a little bit longer. Maybe he wasn't in shape. Maybe there's some other stuff going on. I don't know, but the cream has risen to the top there, and he's getting a lot of snaps. That's a pretty solid front three. Matt Dickerson, who was atrocious in the first week, made a play against the Buccaneers, stepping up a little bit. So very pleased with the improvement in the defensive line, and the offense and defensive line improvements, or why I will have adjusted my expectations for this team from 2-15 to 7-10, 8-9 is a possibility. I think so, because of the improvements in the trenches that you didn't necessarily think could happen because there wasn't really a big personnel change. Outside linebackers, that's your edge guys.
D.
C. I think I went C again based on expectations as part of it. But yeah, D makes sense.
B.
Falcons fans gave him a B with a C at 42% and a B at 46%. But overall, the production hasn't really been there. It's been improved because it had nowhere to go but up. But how do I make this team better the quickest? I get another edge, a difference maker at edge. That's how I improve this team the most on defense right now, is a difference maker at edge.
Yeah.
Inside linebackers,
probably give them a C as well.
I went C. I'm like, they've been okay. So they're a BC. Most Falcons fans went B on that one.
Yeah.
Cornerbacks,
B minus.
I went B. B on this one. AJ Terrell hasn't been the superstar he was last year, but he's still been good. And Casey Hayward his trend is going in the correct direction. Hoping to see Isaiah Oliver out there again soon as well. And Mike Ford has played better than I expected. D. Alford has played well when he's come out there. So not bad. And then safeties.
Another B minus, B kind of thing. I think Richie Grant has stepped up this season, been fine, but Jalen Hawkins is just, below average player in my opinion. But it's the safety as well. If you can kind of, as long as they're not out there blowing mental plays, it's not going to be as much of an issue.
Yeah. So again, I think basically what that shows, and chat, see if you agree with me on this, is the Falcons fans are pretty pleased with this team. It's a 2-3 start. They've been in every game. I think expectations for the most part have been set fairly accordingly. Most casual fans, I said coming into the season, they see 7-10 from last year. Well, we'll be better this year. We should have a better record. Should be making the playoff. And I'm like, just pump the brakes on that one a little bit. The roster, you're down now. I think it's like 108 million. You got a dead cap number of now $80 million this year. And you're going to be playing with a neighborhood of $90 million in salary cap room last year. you had to shave $30 million off your payroll to get under the cap the last 2 years, let alone have plus 90 to work with by the time you work with you get those guys off the dead cap. You've got some restructures and cuts coming. And speaking of which, last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here is Calvin Ridley was trending, and I don't know if it was Kevin that did this or not. Let me see if this comes up. If Kevin is the one that got him trending on my timeline, because Twitter goes to specific people, so I get a little Broncos and Falcons talk on here. But Kevin said on Twitter, this was yesterday, says a lot of fans seem to want to move on from Calvin Ridley in 2023. The Falcons might consider it, but only if a good enough trade offer comes in. Otherwise, Ridley is by far the best receiver you get for $11.1 million. Playing out his contract in Atlanta could be mutually beneficial. Now, on the surface, that makes sense. In reality, I'm not so sure, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, is he even really a part of this team right now? Like, is he interacting with the players or talking with teammates or coaches? I mean, seems like it's something where it might be a clean cut, not a clean, like cutting him, but moving on would be the best you can do for him in the situation. You're already functioning without him. Also, this team, just thinking about back to the Titans, how they were built underneath Arthur Smith, how the Falcons are being built right now. The small slot type, is that even really used in this offense?
Yep. I can have one of those guys,
but they're not even. Is he playing in the slot that much, or is it more of an outside position? I feel like they're using the bigger bodies in the slot a lot, so that way you're drawing matchups there and getting more blocking advantage for those zone concepts. And Calvin Ridley, I think, needs to be playing in much more of a quick pass, slant type of offense where you have the quick drop back stuff, which isn't really what the Falcons are doing right now, looking for those explosives. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you keep him if there's not much of a market for him. Maybe you get more value that way, even letting him go and getting that next contract, playing the comp pick game. But I'm not counting on him being a part of this team.
I think it's slim and none are the two chances on this. And as Kevin says, which I kind of disagree with more than anything, only if a good enough trade offer comes in. You mean like Deion Jones going for swapping a 2024 7th for a 6th? This isn't a football move. Deion Jones was not traded for a football move. This was a culture thing. This was a player who didn't want to be there and who the administration didn't want in the locker room. So he was gone for nothing. About $1 million in salary cap room and a swapping of a pick 2 years from now from a 7th and a 6th. That's basically a cut. They were able to save, again, when you're talking about a $208 million payroll, you're talking about less than 0.5%. But again, $1.5 million is real money to somebody. That's actually real money. So Browns picked up about $1.5 million in payroll and then prorate. It's not even that much and a pick. So Matt Ryan was sent for a third. That was with his resume, that's not a ton. I think a second round pick for Julio Jones was a decent return, but it won't take anything to get you could see something as cheap as what we just saw with Deion Jones for Calvin Ridley, a swapping of a pair of 6ths in 2024 for Calvin Ridley. I said last year when he was eligible to come off the reserve list, he ain't playing again. I could just tell. You could just hear it in Arthur Smith's voice. They tried to trade him. They would have traded him if he wasn't suspended. Well, now he's been suspended for a year. A guy hadn't played in almost 2 years. And he just doesn't fit. I don't think there is a fit for him on this team. I think he is Gonzalez.
Yeah, there's just too much going on there. I guess anything you can get from him would be good because it's going from nothing right now to something, whether that be on the field or trade assets. But I don't know. I think I'd rather just a clean cut, move on, rather than the 1 year with him. And Nathan Floyd coming in saying, move on, give Ridley to the Packers for a 3rd round pick, maybe a 4th. I don't care. Just let him go. Well, if you give him to the Packers, then one of my favorite all-time stats is going to go away, which is Aaron Rodgers has thrown 500 passing touchdowns in his career. And there's only been one player with a 1st-round pedigree that he's thrown a touchdown pass to. Can you name that player?
I can't, honestly. I can't even think. I mean, because it wasn't, the guy from Kentucky wasn't a 1st rounder. I really can't.
Mercedes Lewis.
Oh, the
Tight
tight
end.
end.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, tight end.
In the same draft
Um,
class, on that same UCLA team as Maurice Jones-Drew. That was a fun UCLA team. Used to love to play with them in NCAA football.
yeah, I don't remember. Trade him to Green Bay. What about the Bears? We've picked up enough of their scraps. Send him to Chicago,
Yeah.
with Justin Fields. But again, I'm more concerned, and I don't think the procedural should be too big a problem. I'm more interested in getting that $11 million back.
Mhm.
If they move on completely, you suspended him from a year. In theory, he was supposed to have um, that 11 million guaranteed. But I've also remember reading that his fourth year didn't vest because he didn't play enough plays for his fourth year to vest, where you had to pick up his fifth year option. So he could still be eligible on the fourth year deal if they really wanted to play hardball. I think. Don't know on that one for sure. But again, I'll be absolutely stunned to see Calvin Ridley. Now, having him on Madden makes sense, but he's got to walk in that locker room, look his teammates and his coaching staff in the eye. Don't see that one happen, y'all. I just do not. I do not want Calvin Ridley around my 21-year-old rookie and my 22-year-old rookie receivers and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Move on. Move on. We talked to Nathan already. Chris Walker's coming in. Says, morning, guys. Coming in on Facebook. Appreciate you, Chris. The coaching staff is probably the biggest strength of this team. We have some building blocks, but need more. I hate the refs making bad calls against us continues to be an issue and a problem for us. I don't want Ridley. I still feel like he quit on this team. I like I said, I don't think it's going to be a problem. You could just read the body language from Arthur Smith about this time last year. I'm like, this dude is not coming back. He is not coming back this year. He's not coming back at all. They have already moved on, and now he's been out really 2 years without playing football. Because let's face it, he wasn't playing football last year before he quit for good. He wasn't playing much last year either. Very disappointing numbers, disappointing player. So it's been 2 years. What's he going to be, 29? Coming off not playing for 2 years? No, like I said, I just want the money back. I want the money being able to invest in replacements in other players. That $11 million was supposed to be guaranteed.
Yeah, 100%. YMOF Jamal coming in here saying, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, YMOF. He's even got the YMOF on his picture there. So it must stand for something. Your mama, of course.
I'm not even going to try and show off my lack of coolness. Not even going to try. So I think we're probably got at a spot where we can probably wrap this thing up, Nick. Let's
49ers
finish off.
Yeah.
We can finish off talking about, the 49ers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, just repeating what I said earlier, I think an 11-point spread is a lot. At home against a Jimmy Garoppolo led offense. Yes, the defense can put the shackles on this team, and you were down 21-0, but you came back and you made it a one-score game again. So I think that the 49ers are up and down a better team. I expect them to win, and the Falcons will drop to 2-4. But I think it to be a close game again.
Yeah, it will be a close game. I'm really curious to see how the edge rushers for the Falcons match up against the offensive tackles of the 49ers. With Trent Williams being out, this is a horrible 49ers offensive line. If you can get some pressure, which is wild to say for a Kyle Shanahan offense, but it's true. So if you can get some pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe make him force a dumb decision early, get some points, actually play with a lead. I feel like this Falcons team has been playing, besides week one, playing in a deficit the whole season. Do something like that. Lean on the run game a little bit more than having teams play a little bit more cover one man or cover three, get some of those deep shots there where you can stress those seams. I think that would be a great formula for this Falcons team. But that's the one that interests me a lot. Also, talking on the defense, you have Brandon Ayuk, you got Deebo Samuel, you got George Kittle. These are yak monsters. So Falcons second level, if they're going to keep playing the heavy cover two defense that they've played almost 3 times as much as the league average so far this season, cover two with Dean Pease. That means they're going to keep it somewhat in front of you, not as much as a cover 4 or cover 6, but somewhat in front of you. That means catches are going to be had. Tackling from the linebackers, tackling from the secondary. I'll tell you, I know Richie Grant's had a good year this year, but his tape at UCF, his tape last season. If I can isolate Richie Grant against Deebo Samuel in an alley, like that's a recipe for worry for the Falcons fans. On offensive side of the ball, this is a team that is playing really good coverage right now, keeping things in front of them, and has a pretty darn good defensive line. I'm not sure. Is Eric Armstead still injured? I know it's only Wednesday, so the practice reports haven't been coming out.
I haven't seen that one. I've been kind of trying to keep an eye on the Falcons, and Michael Walker is a player there.
Mhm.
He's expecting to play again, which is good. Because you're talking about that yak stuff. Michael Walker is good in coverage and good at the second level, so that could be an important one. And then the athleticism of Troy Anderson could come into play here as well. But I haven't watched the San Francisco side of things.
And then on the topic of Troy Anderson, talk about questions going forward about processing, not taking the cheese, playing disciplined in your run fits. This is a team that is going to show you cheese almost as much as anybody in the NFL. The only teams I can think of that do it more like Andy Reid with all the jet motions and pre-snap motion that you get there from the shotgun. But you are going to have to be very disciplined in your rush lanes. And I am curious. I'm laughing at Charlie Beagle's comments here. You're going to have to be just very disciplined up front. And this is a question mark for Troy Anderson, the processing and the discipline, keeping his hips facing the right direction, not overcommitting or over pursuing. So we got D coming in saying, is Deebo like a smaller, younger Cordell Patterson? Deebo's a significantly better receiver.
He's
run routes.
He was a receiver, could make it as a wide receiver where Cordell Patterson never really did.
No.
So very similar type players though. I think the 49ers saw what the Falcons were doing with Cordell Patterson early last year, and it's like, hell, we've got a guy like that. And started using him in a similar way. The 49ers were a better team, and they were getting more play for that, national media. But yeah, they started using Deebo like Cordell Patterson, and it was very good for them. Deebo bucked at that just a little bit because running backs don't get paid. Cordell Patterson wasn't worried about it. He's towards the tail end of his career and was becoming a feature guy for the first time in his life. He's happy, man, just get me on the field. I want to be involved. But Deebo sees $20 million going to average receivers. He says, man, I ain't a running back. You're going to call me a wide receiver. So, but they use them very, very similar, Thea. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely way to call it. Just Deebo is much more nuanced in craftiness and his ability to run. Cordell's never been very good at getting separation with agility in the pass game, sinking his hips. That's why he was an incredible kick returner, punt returner, and gunner. Straight line speed.
Strength.
Yeah. Yep. What a dude. But yeah, no, should be a good game. I am definitely taking the Falcons in the spread, 11 points. That seems ridiculous. I do not trust. I know the 49ers had an incredible game last week, but I think the Falcons are going to hold up against this team. And this is a team they've ABF. We're talking about all these acronyms out here, not Yo Mama Old Fat, or you might have heard it. But Falcons ABF, always been fighting. And this is a team that is scrappy right now, and I like them to cover.
Yeah, I like the Falcons and the points. I like the 49ers to not cover, and then the over-under on this is 44.5. I could see a 19-16 type of. I've said that a lot, but it seems like that could be where it ends up. So very interested there. And Nathan coming in, he doesn't seem to be very happy. They gave away the coverage guy for nothing to the Browns. Dion wasn't going to play. Wasn't going to play. That was kind of the point. We said that at the very beginning when he went on IR after playing in the third preseason game. I'm like, I said it a few times. This guy's done. We're not going to see him play anymore. For the same reason I said about Ridley, this team has moved on from him for one reason or another. They have moved on, and there's some people, again, like I said, local beat writers are a bit of an extension of the team, unofficial PR, but they've floated it out there that there were locker room problems with him. Whether there are or not, you have to take that with a grain of salt. But they didn't want him around, and he didn't want to be there. Good luck to you, Dion. Thanks for the time. Yeah, and KB's coming in here again. So he's getting arrested for giving Tom Brady a high five. It's too rough. You went too high on that one. You got to go. Actually, I don't know where to go anymore. You can't go towards the waist. That's for sure. we can get into Carolina next week. I know that was we didn't touch on that a little bit. The dumpster fire that were the Carolina Panthers, and there are any players that are going to be available? Maybe not for the Falcons this year. And the Panthers probably wouldn't want to make too many in-house, in-division trades with the Atlanta Falcons. But I am very interested in the general manager and the team building process that the Falcons are going to have for the first time in a long time this next year, where they're not just overpaying their own free agents and then drafting, which is good, but they can actually shop. Most everybody on this team is either on rookie contracts or 1-year deals. So it'll be a really fun offseason. But this week, again, I think Nick and I are in agreement. Falcons the points. I like the under. And we will see you again on Monday. We'll have the good, the bad, and the ugly from the Falcons and 49ers. And it could be a nice, ugly game. The Broncos 49ers was incredibly ugly, and the home team came away with a win. So it looked like a pretty game. But Nick, appreciate you being here. Everybody in the chat, thanks for being here. Drop a like on the way out. And we will see you next